It's your girl, Deshaunda Carter, but you can call me DC. Thanks so much for tuning in today to my show, When the Blue Comes Off. Sit back, relax, take notes, do what you like, and let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my special guest, Tyneadrian Bledsoe, former New York City Department of Correction Officer. Hey, what's up, Adrian?
Hi, how are you?
I am so great. Thank you for taking the time to come up on the show and speak with the people and myself. We know that your DOC days were short-lived, but if you would be so kind as to tell us about your brief stint with corrections, we would love to hear it. So how long did you actually do with the department?
I actually came in the department in 1996. I originally came from New York State. I did about maybe 3 months in state and then correction. New York City called me, and then I came in 1996 and went straight to ATM after the academy, which was interesting, but it was a great learning experience.
So when you said you came from state, you did state corrections first?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And you
Yes.
stayed there a short while as well?
Yes, because I was on the list for corrections and I was going through the process, but the state called me first, so I said, let me just get a check.
That's
And
right.
then I was transferred to the city, and it was like I said, it was a great transition, which I wanted the city anyway.
So if you would say, like, even though it was a short-lived stay, in comparison to state versus city corrections, was there a big difference?
Well, state corrections, one of the great benefits that the city don't have, they have hazardous pay. So if, say, for example, I get urine thrown in my eyes, that would be considered hazardous, a hazardous situation. So I would get hazardous pay. Unlike with the city, you just gotta take it. Right? It becomes part of the job. Where in state, they actually give you a lump sum of money for instances like that.
Oh, so it kind of weeds out the workers' comp situation, I guess.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Absolutely. But it was actually in addition.
Oh,
So it's a supplemental. It's an additional supplemental benefit than workman's compensation, right? Because sometimes workman's compensation you have to go through the procedural process.
Right.
With them, it's part of your benefit packages.
Got
For
you.
hazardous pay.
Got you. That's beautiful. All
Absolutely.
right, state corrections. Y'all doing it up there. Okay, so now you've transitioned. You've come to the New York City Department of Correction. You at HDM. What was it like? Like, how long did you actually do with the department?
I actually did 6 years.
Okay.
I actually did 6. I actually loved HDM. It was very hyper. I'm just going to use that word very sensitively. It was very hyper, and I think I was transferred to out of the academy because I was a squad leader. Now I have no military experience. I have no background in law enforcement. I'm only 5'3", but I was picked to be a squad leader. Didn't know what that meant. I guess the department head. I'm just going to say the department head saw my leadership skills in my class and how the class was following me voluntarily. And he said, okay, you're going to be a squad leader. I didn't know what that was. But because I was always following my own rules, but then I had to realize that it was a great privilege to have others follow you. So I had to now conform to the rules that DOC had in place.
Okay, well, we know we're going to get to talk about all those leadership skills and qualities that you have, because that's the best part, to be honest, of this interview that I want the people to understand. That is the key for me wanting to speak with you today, the life after the blue. So now, in your 6 years, you enjoyed HDM. What would you say was the worst part of your correctional career?
Well, the worst part was I had my son there, and just being pregnant in a jail with a lot of unhealthy toxins. That was the worst part. Everything else, the excitement, the lockdowns, the overtime, all of those things I was okay with. I actually enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed certain things. The only thing where I start to find myself becoming very therapeutic when it comes to the care of the inmates. And as a correctional officer, you can't be therapeutic. You have to enforce control and order. So I start to be imbalanced in my decision making, because I would see things that I wasn't comfortable with, that I realized it was just offering, at that particular time when there's an incident, something like a therapeutic intervention would have been more beneficial than more of an enforcement and a control. So I was in conflict with that constantly. Internally, I didn't realize it until later on into the afterlife, how that therapeutic conflict and wanting to help others and wanting to heal a situation and offering more of a conversation than as an officer should can be perceived as fraternization and all of those things. So that's how I start to learn who I was, start to have a level of self-awareness at Department of Corrections.
That's interesting that you say that, because it is a conflict of interest. Being a person, a daughter of an inmate, right? You know, my father did 32 years in a federal institution, so my father was in jail my whole life. You know, I retired when I was 43, so I think he was in jail up until I was 38 or 39, and it's very conflicting when you have a family member incarcerated, right? And you're working around inmates. You can definitely empathize with they're going through, and it's hard for you as a person to be like, okay, you just want me to go in there and have one set of morals or one mentality, one way to think, when in actuality you're in the middle, because you can see you kind of, it's kind of good because you can see both sides of the coin.
Absolutely, and that's I didn't understand it because my nature was to help and heal, but I was told, and I would be penalized if I did. So I knew that I knew that there was not going to be longevity for me. Mm-hmm. That was the part where I started to realize, and that was hard to realize that that a job that I loved so much, because I really enjoyed the job, despite all of the excitement. I loved the job. I loved the excitement. I loved coming there, but that part I was constantly in conflict.
So after you left corrections, and I don't know if you follow it now, how, because that was a long time ago. So back in 1996, you did about 6 years. You left about what, 2003,
something like that.
Okay, so 2003, you now left corrections. So let's just wind it back a little bit. If you were following corrections now, and I know you are, and someone came to you and said, "Hey, I'm about to embark on this journey in corrections," would you be in a position to say, go for it? What advice would you give them?
Well, it depends. I would, because I'm an analysis now, right? So now I would do an analysis of them. Why do you want the job? See, one of the reasons why I wanted the job, because I was a single mother. So I knew this job would offer me a sense of security. So I was going in it only for a paycheck, right? I didn't know who I was. So I didn't have a self-awareness development at that particular time. Even though I was in my late 20s, I still didn't have a self-awareness identity at that particular time. So I would also analyze that in that person. Why do you want it? Why do you want to go to corrections? If it's for the paycheck, because they go as the first thing they talk about is the benefits and the pay, right? It's retirement after 20 years. But what have you what are the internal emotional sacrifices that come with that, right? A lot of people don't realize they're tortured or affected in that 20 years for being in the Department of Corrections, because they're only there for the paycheck and the stability. So I would talk about that. Now, as far as the corrections, because I'm a policymaker now, corrections, I think their training curriculum is focused so much on order and control without having a level of psychology on the officer actually providing the correction and the control. So I would look at the policymakers, the training and development department of Department of Corrections.
Well, I had interviewed a young lady on the show, Miss Berry, down in Texas, and she is fighting, and she's doing a book, and I believe she's writing a book about mental health.
Absolutely.
And I know this is a big thing for you. I think that the city or the department itself does not focus enough on officers' mental health. Because I've stated this before, it took me some time, even up until I've retired, but especially while I was working, I believe officers get a form of PTSD.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what I'm talking about.
And nobody addresses their issues. So they kind of take to, how would you say, masking it in terms of everyday, we're going to go to Joey's. Remember that bar? Or it was a bar, right? Everybody goes to Joey's. They want to drink because this is the Band-Aid on their rough day. This is their digression before they go home, right?
They would drink or eat, right? There's two levels of deprivation that affects them. They would drink or they would eat excessive. And you'll see that as well.
And that is becoming, then the health, now we have the underlying health issues because it either turns to obesity, high blood pressure because of the type of food that they're eating, right? They become to cirrhosis of the liver, all kinds of diabetes with the alcohol because of the sugar.
Absolutely.
And nobody takes these things into consideration when it comes, and then compile that with excessive overtime, sleep deprivation, marital problems, home problems because they're not seeing their children, just all kinds of things that are taking place. Because as a single mother, as I was also after I had gotten divorced, it takes a toll on you because you want to be home with your kids, but you got to work because you got to feed and clothe and shelter the kids, right? And you're drinking because of that. You're staying 16 hours, which really ends up being about 18, depending on the time you commute, catch the route bus, get home,
Absolutely.
Look for parking. You're exhausted.
Absolutely. And most people, if you would actually do a brain scan study on officers from the time they came in to the time they leave, and you look at, as you just talked about, deprivation in so many different areas, you will see the causation of a lot of things that happen after. What I mean by it, most people get sick after, right? Shortly after. They either get sick, unfortunately pass because of it, right? But I'm going to express that the powers to be are completely aware of it. They operate from a science, let's just say a science relationship to corrections, right? Because they have to reduce their liabilities, right? So if anything happens to an officer, there is a liability. So they study these things. They know exactly what happens before they enter corrections, during and after. They're completely aware of it. But remember, the first thing they do is reinforce your privilege to being in the Department of Corrections because of the fact that you come in with a test, that's it, and now they increase the requirement for college credit, that's it, and then they don't require a lot of active learning. Like for instance, you are a captain. If you were a captain and you had to have a master's degree, you would be like, I'm leaving this, because now you will start to think. You can think and make money versus coming to jail and have to go through all of these things. So they know what they're doing. That's why they constantly let you know and make you feel there's no life after corrections.
Right.
They constantly make you feel that.
It's complete.
It's programming. It's programming.
Just like, well, you know what I was getting ready to say. Just like the programming of the vaccination, but we're not. I will digress on that. But it's just like they say. You go to work, you do your time, you get your pension, and your life is gonna be set. But you and I both know, right? If you're not following the news, that pension, just like the Social Security at this time, may not be here.
Well, they don't. Again, you don't see a lot. Thankfully, a lot of people are getting more knowledgeable about the aftercare, right? Setting up their aftercare. But percentage-wise, you may have 40% actually see a financial advisor on retirement before they retire to plan for retirement. Most people don't even speak to a financial advisor to plan for post-corrections, right? This is why some people stay on corrections past 20 years, because they can't. Most people buy a house, not in the first 20 years, they buy a house within the last 10 years. So now you got a 30-year mortgage and you're only 10 years in, and now you're stuck in this cycle of madness, right? And you don't realize how they're creating a level of organized conformity, right? So now you have to adapt or readapt after corrections. It's by design for them. They need to keep you in control. Right? If you start thinking, then you're going to start challenging. If you start thinking, you're going to start questioning. They don't need that. They need you to do, produce. That's their mindset. That's why you don't see a change. So they wonder why there is not a change in the Department of Corrections. It's by design. There is changes economically,
right?
But it's not. It's just there is not a change. You won't see a change because they need to keep you thinking and doing as they say. That's why you're able to recite what they say. You're able to remember, to recall, because of the fact that this is what they tell you all the time. When you start thinking about, I can't take this no more, I'm ready to go, what am I going to do, right? So to segue into my life, when I left corrections, that was one of the darkest places. Okay, when I came into the Department of Corrections, I had a GED. I was 20-something years old, my late 20s. I had a GED and minimal life skills. What was I going to do? I was smart. Could I classify myself as measurable intelligence at that particular time? No, because I didn't have no formal education. So I had to, when I left corrections, it was more of faith. It was something, divine intervention that happened. I didn't realize it at the time, but that's exactly what happened. And I decided to go back to school because I knew in order for me to get the same money that I was making at that particular time, and I had to have education. So now I decided to get education. And you imagine the fear of leaving the Department of Corrections, not being able, only having a GED, not being competitive in this world, and now going into a competitive environment with young kids, right? Because most people at that age were in their early 20s. So they came straight out of high school. So the things that I was learning, they already knew. So it was a lot for me, but it was the best thing that that has ever happened to me, because now I attach to my therapeutic nature.
But after, let's let the people know. Yes, you went in corrections, got a GED, left corrections, and you have what now?
2 master's degrees.
2 master's degree in what?
I started out in 2000 and left in corrections in 2003. Started I started Mercy in 2003. I went and got a bachelor's in 2000, let's say 5, 6. It took me a year and a half to get my master's in psychology. It took me another year and a half in 2009 to get my master's in public administration with a concentration of health service management.
Now look at that. If that's not incentive enough, even if you're not doing a business, even if you're not going out to become a CEO of a company, you're still able to go back and gain knowledge. So if that's something that you're thinking about doing and you haven't done it, school is an option. You can never stop learning. You never know what school and education would provide you. And it doesn't have to be college. There's all types of learning. What is the word?
Trade schools.
There you go.
A program.
There you go. Trade. Especially now, we need to get back into trade, learning different hands-on activities, because the way that this world is going, you're going to need some life skills to learn how to put some stuff together. My personal opinion.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things. Part of it wasn't necessarily the academics that was so rewarding. It was having a renewed sense of self. Right? So I knew I was in conflict in corrections. I didn't know who I was. I didn't have a sense of identity. Now I knew. And not only was that, I was pursuing my passion. I was pursuing being a therapeutic practitioner. And now I can go and work with foster kids and help foster kids before they become a correctional inmate. So I realized I can help parents. I can train parents on how to be better caregivers so their child will end up in the correctional facility. So I realized at that particular time I found my purpose post corrections. So I was finding myself, but I knew there was something missing. Post corrections, I actually found myself. So that part was actually, corrections was a benefit to that. And I appreciate that.
So if you had to do it all over to get back to this place, would you do what you did in taking that test again?
Absolutely. I would never change nothing in my life, the good, the bad, and absolutely the ugly, because that's what shaped me. I know not to go into ugly doors, because those ugly doors hurt. I don't want to go back into the good doors because I passed them. The bad doors, I'm always okay up for a challenge. I know the bad doors are going to come. Mm-hmm. So it made me fearless. Taking that leap of faith, I'm extremely fearless. So I'm not afraid of what's happening now or what's happening in future. I can always reposition into any area, like we talked about. Let's say the future. If I want to take a certificate program in artificial intelligence, I know I have the discipline to actually sit down and do that, because I did it. But actually going into an area of the unknown, sometimes people prevent and stay comfortable where they're at. No. It's not an option.
Well, you know what, Adrian? I'm glad that we spoke briefly about this correction career, because, like I said, the importance for me to let the people know is the things that you have acquired and are doing after you have taken off that blue. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a short break, guys, and we're going to come back with Tyneadrian Bledsoe, and she's going to tell us what she's been doing since she has taken off that blue. So stick around. We'll be back in a moment.
This has been brought to you by Simply Carter Corp., your one-stop shop for all of your entertainment and party needs. Contact Simply Carter Corp. for any special occasion. You can find them on Facebook at Simply Carter Corp., on Instagram at Simply Carter Corp. You can check out their website at www.simplycartercorp.com. Give them a call at 845-682-0022, or you can shoot them an email at hello@simplycartercorp.com. Simply Carter Corp., a brand for everyone.
Okay, guys, welcome back. We're here with former New York City Department of Correction Officer Tyneadrian Bledsoe.
Hello,
Now,
hello, hello.
she's already told us what she did while she was in corrections in her short time there, but now she's going to tell us what she's been doing since that time and that she has taken off the blue. So, Tyneadrian, tell the people what you're doing.
Well, I'm doing a lot. After I got my master's in public administration, I decided that I wanted to be an executive director. I wanted to have my own business. In school, there was a quote that I will always write on my papers. It was called, "Loving you would have lasting results." And I knew that I wanted to have that as a catchphrase on my business. So I used my Stint therapeutic intervention and decided to open my own agency. Again, here I was at a crossroads trying to figure out, what does opening your own agency look like?
But what kind of agency?
That's what it is. I didn't know what kind of agency it is. I just knew I wanted to open my own. So I didn't know. I didn't know what it was, right? Until life showed up. And when life showed up for me, again, those ugly times is where it continued to birth a new beginning in my life. And I never forget the story. I was in conflict with one of my part-time jobs, and they took $400 out of my check. And because I'm a natural-born fighter, I felt, you taking something from me without the proper due process, I'm going to fight it. So eventually I won. I mean, I was Johnny Cochran for $400, and I realized how $400 had such an impact on my life. Like, not $4,000, not $400 or $1 million, just $400. So I realized that I was losing in life. I thought I was winning, but I was actually losing. So I, sat on the side of my bed and talked to God, and he said, "You would never be broke again." I didn't understand what that means, but I had this new found, I can't say energy, it was like a burst of energy. And that's when I decided I came up with behavioral solutions, which was what I was about. I was a behavioral therapist at the time, and I used the same the same materials, the same mastery, and opened my own agency. And it was completely hard. At first, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. If you would have talked to me, I was like a DJ with a mixtape. If you saw me, I had flyers, I had everything. One thing I didn't have was money. So I said to myself, how can I build this company similar to the company I worked for? And nobody would help me. I started asking around. Then I started asking, how much do they pay for my services to go and do the behavioral therapy services? They said, you get paid $50 an hour, which I thought was a lot of money. Actually, the agency was getting $250 an hour. And I said, wait a minute. I have all of these student loans. How can I be the $200 chick? And I learned, and I figured it out. I figured how to get a state contract. I figured how to get a federal contract. I convinced the government to invest in me blindly, because I convinced them that I had a whole team, and I didn't. I was actually a broke single mother living in a trailer park in Pomona, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And here comes Behavioral Solution. And the day I got approved was I want to say the turning point, but it wasn't. It was the day when I made my first $100,000 a month, when I realized what I was doing. That's when I realized that, oh my God, I can triple if I do certain things. I was constantly learning and growing, And then I realized even more that I can help my own community. I can create jobs for people that look like me. I can pay them above market rate. I can actually change lives. So not only can take care of myself and my family and get out of poverty and not have to worry about that again, now I can create jobs and services for people with needs. It was a win-win. And I enjoyed every bit of the ride. So that is one area of my life. But the down part about that is it took a lot of me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what I was getting into. I had all of this rapid success. It was rapid. It was what people want, right? They want this rapid success. They want the 7 figures. They want all of what comes with it. And it was a lot. It was a lot to it. The ugly part about success. It's a very dark part of success that affects your mental health, and it did. So I couldn't keep up with the trajectory of the agency and decided to let it go in 2018, which was hard. What was I going to do? I was a boss. I didn't take. It was hard for me to go back into workforce. And I hit a low point. And so I decided and say, well, wait a minute. This is my intellectual property. I built this agency. I built these systems. I developed these relationships. I did. And realized that I was the controller of my outcome, not these people, not the people I was serving, not the people I was working for, not, no one, not the staff, me. So now I realize I gained so much knowledge and mastery over government contracts and federal contracts. So now I decided to take that and continue to my life purpose of helping people, and now open agencies all over the United States. If there's federal contracts to get, I can get them. If there's state contracts to get, I can get them. And I love that part because now I'm continuing my active learning instead of, I want to say, feeling sorry for my situation and saying, okay, I lost, but now I actually gained. Because now I feel like I'm unstoppable and invincible in so many things. So my afterlife and my next life is going to be beautiful. I'm excited about it.
Well, I'm so happy that you have excelled leaving corrections. But there's also another part that you do. Don't you do something where, come on, let's just call it what it is. You develop businesses all day. Like, let's talk about how you have taken your intellectual property and have aided several other people into businesses in the home healthcare field. Like, even for me, I had started we worked together and you helped me create a business, which is the Carter's Caring Hands, which is still kind of on hold for me. It hasn't been fully operational. We're just, you already know we're working just with paid clients, and we're not using contracts with the city or the state as yet. But tell the people what you do. Like, if you're out there, guys, and you've been thinking about starting a home healthcare agency, this is the woman to get in touch with. Like, I don't know why she's being so humble, but Tyneadrian, tell these people what you do in terms of creating businesses.
Okay, so it's hard because I do it so effortlessly, so it's hard for me to talk about it. Okay, so right now I decided to open Wave 4 Academy, which is I build companies from the inception to the approval. If they need me actively, I can help them with payroll, finances, everything. And right now, to date, I have about 30 clients that have been approved, from Nebraska down to Florida to Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, Las Vegas, everywhere you name it. They come to me, and they usually come to me after they went to someone else, and they were given poor guidance. Because this industry that they're going to, they know that home care in 2021 beyond is going to be extremely lucrative, and it is extremely lucrative because they know that they're going to reduce a lot of the nursing home deaths by taking them out of nursing homes and putting them into their own homes, or they're going to put them into care homes where they're going to give them care services, wraparound services like non-medical transportation, adaptive services, home delivery meals. This is in demand. A lot of people are totally not aware that this is a very lucrative industry, especially us African Americans. We are not aware that we can open one of these agencies and we can profit from one of these agencies. And there's so many different services out there that they can benefit from. Most of these agencies, if you do a study, most of these agencies are owned by foreigners because they can come in and they don't have to have a lot of credentials. They just got to know how to get qualified by the state, meet the state and federal criteria, and then get approved and hire qualified individuals. So if I have, let's just say, a high school diploma, and I know how, I hired me, and I help them get approved to be a home care agency, they would then in turn hire an executive director who have the credentials to meet the state requirement. That's all, because you're a business owner, so that they come in as a business owner and know that there's no requirement for the individual. It's a requirement for the agency. So long as your agency meets the requirement, you can hire your internal staff to meet the state requirements. So this is why a lot of these home care agencies or adult daycare agencies or ambulance services or transportation services are owned by Chinese and Russian and the Jewish. They own them all because they know it's easy to get in and it's extremely lucrative. To where I'm trying to encourage people that look like me, no, go into these industries. You can have them for 5 years, sell them off, and open other things because now you have this consistent money. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars versus another industry. That's all I can say.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so
go ahead.
I think that's my purpose, is to reduce that fear factor of not being in. Most of the people all of the people besides you actually work for these agencies. They work for agencies like that, and they always had the dream of opening their own agency, and I'm giving them that opportunity to open their own agency.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, here you have it. You have a woman who has gone from a GED to 2 masters, did a stint with corrections, realized it wasn't for her, stepped out on faith, opened up her own agency, and has been continuing to help others build agencies and be successful in what they do. Any closing words, Tyneadrian? Anything you want to say to the people? Like any advice, last minute advice that you want to give them in terms of either 1, corrections, which we already touched on, and 2, if they want to go into a business, and also give them your social media or where they can find you if they would like to reach out to you and talk further with you about developing a business in that field.
Okay, well, first I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm constantly helping, so it's hard for me to focus on my greatness and what I do and how I help. It just come natural, right? So it's hard for me to talk about it because, but I appreciate you giving me this voice at this short period of time on your show. That's 1. 2, I think people really need to focus a lot on, even if they're in corrections for 3 years, I'm going to say 3 years, or when they make top pay, When they make top pay, that's all they get excited about is making top pay. But they need to have an exit strategy. And 5 years in, you need to have an exit strategy. And that exit strategy, just like you have a vision board, you should have an exit strategy. If you plan from 5 years would be 10 years, and before you know it, 10 years would be 15 years before you know it. And then you will be looking to slow down, when in actuality, you should be looking to speed up. Because if you have an exit strategy, you'll already be designing your post-life. And then your post-life, the preparation stage, will be less anxiety-induced. You will already know what you need to do. With that being said, that's my message to anybody out there with any field. I come in to any situation with an exit strategy, with a succession plan, right? Because I want to leave something. I'm coming in to take, and I'm also want to leave. So I don't care what it is. If it's a dead-end job, come in with a dead-end job with an exit strategy. How, I'm going to stay here 5 years because this is what I want to do. Versus I'm going to stay here 5 years and I'm miserable doing it. That changes your mentality, but it also changes your outcome. That's one. But if you want to open a home care agency, a non-medical transportation, adult daycare, personal care homes, assisted livings, anything that you want to do or have just a conversation with me about aftercare, especially in these profit-making fields, you can reach me at on Facebook. I'm at Wave Pro Academy. That's WAVPRO Academy, all one word. On IG at WAVPRO Academy, and my website is WAVPROacademy.com.
Well, again, Adrian, thank you so much for taking the time. And I could talk to you all day. I can't give them too much. I can't give them too much of you because I don't know if they're ready to handle all of you. So I got to give them a little bit at a time, But I'm sure we will be speaking again in the near future because you have great things in the works. And we want to share this with our people so that they can all be apprised of what's going on. And again, thank you for being on When the Blue Comes Off, and we will talk to you again soon. Guys, make sure you follow her on social media and Facebook and Instagram and her website. Tyneadrian, stay safe in these pandemic times, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Hey, it's Deshawnda Carter here, and I have a quick question for you. Do you know any young ladies between the ages of 5 and 15 who are current business owners or are looking to be business owners? Well, if so, then they need to be a part of the Diva Glam Future Boss pageant. It's not a pageant about beauty, it's a pageant about the grind. For further information, give me an email at simplycartercorp@gmail.com or DM me on any of my social media.